everyone. This is Pınar and this is George.
Hello.
So we are now in KOCH Institute and we generated some protein viruses, and George actually 3D printed some of those. So we will take a look at them and see how they look like. But before that, George, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Well, hi. I'm George. I'm a PhD student in the bioengineering program at MIT, and this lab focuses on making materials, but from organisms. So we engineer bacteria, yeast, and all these types of organisms to be factories to make new materials.
This is so cool.
And so what I do is I use yeast, the same yeast that makes beer and bread, but then I make them to produce metal crystals. So these metal crystals can either be, some of them are colorful, like yellow, and some of them have a range of colors and functions. And so if you look a little closer, there, those are those colors. And we do this because we use these yeasts to clean water that have contaminated metals, and we use them to collect those metals and then remanufacture them to something useful. And then we can go to another part of the lab so I can show you what we make. Yeah.
So we are going to follow George. Tell you guys about the...
Yeah. So every room here is a different facility. So we have rooms to grow cultures, we have rooms to manipulate cultures, we have rooms to do some material processing. And just around the corner we can show you, once we build the materials, we need to test them to see how they work.
And what kind of background do you need to work in this kind of lab? I know that you have a bachelor's in electrical.
So I have an electrical engineering background. I did purely hardware, so I know how to build circuits, and so that kind of understanding of materials and circuitry allows me to understand what materials I want to build. And I go a step backwards and I say, if I want to build it, how do I make bacteria and biology build it for me?
Okay, by the way, this looks so dangerous. Okay.
So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to take you on.
Oops. Wow.
So this whole laboratory is meant just to test our materials, and the materials we build are actually used to build batteries. So
this sounds like magic to me. How do you make these pills from living organisms?
Yeah, so we have so batteries are basically layers of materials. So we have a negative layer, a positive layer, and a few other layers in between. So it's like a cake.
Okay.
So we make these organisms just deposit one layer at a time.
Oh.
And after we do that, we make it so that for a human we can actually touch it. So we case it into what you see here, a coin cell.
Oh.
So you can put this either in your
there's a really good business.
There could be, yeah. So all this is autonomous. We do this part, but all the hard work for the chemistry and the materials, the bacteria and yeast do it for us. So it's pretty nice.
Okay. And so now we are in George's lab, and he's going to investigate some of the dreamed up proteins. But I think when we discussed before, you said that so right now we are using the PDB protein sequences to generate new sequences just using text.
Yeah.
But you mentioned this might not be the ideal pipeline.
Yeah, it's mainly because the field of biology, we still haven't mapped how sequences form into proteins. So sequences are just text of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But right now we don't know how that text of each molecule in real life, we don't know how that forms into a 3D structure.
And this is the important.
And that's very important. So what we were doing with machine learning is that we were getting the text and making the machine generate the text, but then we're using another algorithm to try to guess what that text looks like in 3D. And
so these viruses are not ideal dreamed up viruses?
Yeah, they're not ideal yet. They're not ideal yet until we know how to map it.
Yeah. But although there is a possibility that they might actually correspond to a virus that might exist in real life, right?
It can.
So if we generate the right sequence and if the algorithm make the right prediction,
absolutely,
it has a tiny possibility of being a real virus.
Yeah.
But probably it's just garbage.
But it's scary because there definitely is a possibility of making the right virus, and it could be very deadly.
Yeah.
But
okay.
For now, it's just for show, just for education.
So I will switch to the other camera. Hi everyone. So we couldn't get the nice camera set up, and we are going to record this from this phone as well, which is
still pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so these are the proteins that AI dreamed up and we 3D printed them.
Yep.
And can you talk a little bit about those proteins, like whether their shapes are so weird or...
Yeah, so typically proteins tend to, just thermodynamically, they tend to clump together to either balls or globular shapes. So like this one right here, I have never seen this before.
It looks like kind of a virus though, like with a, weird tail.
It looks like an alien in a way.
It also might look like a
Yeah.
dinosaur
Yeah.
or like a seahorse
Like a
or something.
Looks like a seahorse. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what machines dreamed up of. But when we talk about proteins that are a little bit more realistic, it's more globular, so more like compressed together. That's what they tend
So
to
this
form.
kind of has an eye, like one-eyed,
Yeah, that can happen too.
like a cute virus.
So things that are kind of like on the borderline is this thing too. Like this little protrusion doesn't make any sense to me, but who knows? Maybe biology likes it. But this body, this clump, this kind of makes sense. Not it's not too pretty, but this is what biology
maybe
is.
this part makes it like so dangerous.
Maybe it hooks onto things. And then finally, holes are okay, but
This might be my favorite because it has like this cute little
eyes and maybe
eyes.
and a nose.
It looks cute.
And a nose right there.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is also a little bit strange. So these dumbbell proteins, dumbbell as in it has two big pieces and it's connected by a smaller piece, that actually can exist. I've seen a few proteins like that. Now, the reason why is that proteins are also very plastic. They're very flexible. So some proteins have like two shapes, and when they act, they like either like move apart. And so this kind of makes sense too. These two pieces can either like bend and stretch and move around.
Okay, maybe this is kind of a virus where like they came together, like
and
two
then,
of them,
and then it's just like yeah.
and then they grow like exponentially.
Yeah, and so the whole thing about proteins is that they should all fit together. So some proteins
So actually, these fit kind of.
they fit kind of well. They fit
Okay,
kind of well. Yeah.
What about? So you fit those, and then. Okay.
Looks
so
like-
this is now a super.
It looks like cancer.
Oh my god. I don't know how it will fit to
Yeah.
anything, to be honest.
But the whole point about proteins is that they're shaped in a certain
look.
way that looks just kind of
It
weird.
looks like a coal or something.
Looks like coal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole point of proteins is that they act by touching things. So they act by either holding another thing or attaching to another thing. So I guess we're trying to do that.
What is,
Yeah.
It like looks like a retina.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just like something that we are playing with,
Yeah.
but actually, like if you want to use deep learning or artificial intelligence in protein
Yeah.
creation, basically you would want to work in coordinate
Coordinate space.
coordinate space.
Yeah. So
Because
again.
the most essential thing is the placement of these.
Yeah. So again, just to say what we did is we got sequences, which are text, and then using machine learning, we dreamed up of new sequences and predicted what they would look like, which is not completely correct because these predictions are not perfect.
Yeah, not technical.
So the right way to do it is to just look at the 3D space and learn how these proteins are positioned in 3D. But that's a very difficult problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you I think mentioned when we talked about it, it takes an entire PhD.
Oh, it
to
is
actually
like
like.
I'm not even kidding.
Fine.
Just to do one of these, it would be a PhD worth of work.
Oh.
Right? Just a single
to
person.
discover
just-
a new
Yeah,
protein.
a new protein. Like one protein and understanding what it looks like and what it does is an entire PhD. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you can get a Nobel Prize.
Wow.
Really? Yeah.
So I think like you mentioned one Nobel Prize like that. What was it doing?
Oh, to do these predictions.
Oh, okay. And there was this floor like
Oh yeah.
made some kind of.
And so in 2008, I think, the Nobel Prize went to a man who discovered a protein that turns green. That's it.
And how people are using this in
Oh,
real life?
they're using it by studying biology, by using this green protein and and sticking it to other
Oh,
proteins.
They are tracing.
They're tracing things. And
okay.
so you can see these cells. It's almost like you're color coding biology. So these cells are turning green as they move around, and you can actually look at where they are. And this famous professor now passed away. His name is Robert Shen. And he turned this green one to also become red, yellow, blue, purple.
Wow.
So
any color.
any color. So
You can track multiple.
yeah. So it literally looks like a rainbow.
Wow.
And it's beautiful.
And is there any possibility like we take these nice features like oh this like turns green and this is the to create some superhero protein?
Yeah, that's actually not to sound too scientific. I mean science fiction, but there's a field called chimeric proteins where let's say you have two proteins. This protein maybe cures cancer, and this other protein cures another disease.
So you can create a mutant.
Yeah, people are trying to put mutants together.
Wow,
So
that's so cool.
It's really cool.
And maybe in the future, like, can we get
like wings,
like these, or can we like request? I want like
oh, that's
my squid to look green.
Yeah, actually, that's a huge ethical debate. So people are saying in the next 50 years. They're called designer babies. Like we can actually say what babies we want from what genes we want, but it's more of a not can we do it, but should we do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool though.
Is this the CRISPR?
CRISPR. Yeah. So you can say CRISPR is helpful because you could cure diseases, but after you cure diseases, then
maybe
you
want more.
You want more. Like
I also want like a green eye.
Yeah, green eyes, or like or I want to be blonde hair, or I want to be 6 foot. I want to have these types of muscles. I want to be this smart. I want to be this handsome. Like, you know.
And I guess a part of this ethical debate is like who have access to this kind of.
Yeah. So there has been two. Immunotherapy treatments. So these are like revolutionary treatments to cure cancer and cure diseases. And their price right now is $1 million.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow.
So it's also another ethics question, as in, even if we could give these to people, typically the rich will do it, and the poor will not. Yeah.
So no green eyes or blonde hair to anyone.
Not for me. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, George, for doing this project and helping to create these look. I mean, some of them looks amazing. Even though we actually didn't scientifically maybe created an accurate protein, there is a tiny possibility.
There is a tiny,
that this might be an deadly virus, right?
No, it could be. Yeah, there actually is a possibility.
So it is like in these Hollywood movies where like they were doing a fun experiment
and
in
then
the lab.
Goes crazy.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, and you are doing an amazing work. I hope like the stuff that you explained and your lab inspires some of our viewers to actually go into that area.
Yeah.
If I knew like this type of stuff exists when I was choosing my major, I would be involved.
Well, thank you. Well, this is super fun. So thanks for including me.
Okay. Now we are in KOCH Institute, and you can see these nice pictures in the background, and he will tell us a little bit about those. But first, can you tell us a little bit about the KOCH Institute?
Yeah, so this institute's an integrated biology research institute, as in we integrate a lot of knowledge from chemistry, biology, materials to solve problems, and one of the problems is cancer. Yeah. One of the problems I work with is recycling and waste. So I use biology to clean water and recycle heavy metals to new products like batteries or solar cells.
This is super cool. Yeah. And what are these pictures?
So each picture that we're seeing right here is an actual scientific experiment, but they realized these experiments are super beautiful, so they submitted it to the KOCH Institute, and every year there's a competition for the most beautiful experiment, and the top 10 get placed here and are awarded.
So actually this is like a parasite inside a human.
So right here this is actually from a flower. It's a flower parasite in a human cell.
Wow.
And it turns out this, conceptually it's very disgusting, but when you look at the picture, it's very pretty.
I will get the description of it. Okay. And let's see the others.
Yeah. And so this one is these people are self-assembling stem cells.
Oh.
As in they're trying to make cells turn into different organs, and organs are only unique because cells are arranged in certain patterns. Mm-hmm. And they're showing that you can make new patterns of cells.
We might use machine learning.
You could, yeah.
To create.
Like look at different pictures and then predict the next one. And so they span a variety of biology because we've realized that biology, if you look at it, it's just very beautiful. So this is just a how do I say it? When you get an animal and you cut it open, this is just what is it? It's a zebrafish that's been dissected.
Oh.
Yeah. Some of them can even be computer generated. So these are computer generated neurons. So like how our brain, people are trying to figure out how our brain is so complex, and we're mathematically modeling it with all these neurons. And many of these, there's so many that I can't really talk about because it's beyond my work. These are different nanoparticles. So for drug delivery, when you take a drug, it's not as easy as taking a pill. Sometimes drugs need to go to particular parts of your body. And we don't want to do surgery for that. And so what people are doing is making new particles so that when you ingest it, it knows where to go.
Yeah. So UPS of the body.
The UPS, oh yeah, that's a good point. UPS of the body, yeah, sure.
Okay, this looks so nice. So this might be easily a dress pattern or something like that.
Yeah, this is actually, I think it's, what is this?
Okay, somebody should make fashion designs out of these.
Yes, these are like bio-inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so new business idea for our viewers. Ah, this is so cool.
Actually, if you want to take a guess, this is actually a tumor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a growing tumor.
It looks so beautiful.
Yeah, looks like a fetus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the colors look so nice.
Yeah. Oh, this is what I was talking about for the Nobel Prize.
Oh.
Was for the different colors.
Okay. Yeah.
So all these colors are not natural. We had to engineer them to be this color. So green, yellow, red.